Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Live from Region 2. I'm your host, of course, MP Shurwayne, Member of Parliament with responsibility for Region number 2, and also Chairman of the People's National Congress Reform. I want to say a special welcome to each and every one of you. I know that we've been off for a few weeks. We've been on the road. We had several clashes, and so we could not have had the program. Last week, I really wanted to uh, do a program, do a session, but we had a clash with uh, the meeting at Buxton, and so at the last minute, we had to cancel the program. But I'm happy to be on tonight and happy to see so many of you beginning to come in. I got several calls from persons, messages asking, what happened to the program. Lots of people from Region 2 look forward to this program every week where they can, be updated as to what is happening in the region, the political situation, um, developmental issues, social issues, police matters, etc. People generally look forward to this program to get a sense of what is happening, to get a sense of what the opposition is doing, what the opposition is saying, and equally what the government is doing or not doing. So I'm happy. Let me just check the persons. Good night. Good night, Miss Yolanda. Gladys Prasad, Miss Fordyce. Good night. Good night to the people of Linden. Linden. Let me tell you this. Linden people are strong people. Linden people are strong people. They set the pace for us. Linden is our base, and it's always been our base, and they're the ones that largely set the pace for us. Good night to you folks from Linden, all my comrades from Linden, friends, family from Linden. Miss Sasha, good night. Good night to you. Good night, Mr. Tony. Tony watching from Maryland. Maryland, all the way from Maryland in the US. A lot of people tune into this program. What we try to do here is to bring some content, a lot of the content, or have a lot of the focus on Region 2. But at the same time, we tackle the national issues also, the issues that are in the media at the forefront. Mr. Phillips, Kenrick, good night. Good night to you. Fraser, good night. And so I'm happy that we can continue this program. I'm trying my best to have it on a weekly basis, but sometimes we have these clashes and other issues coming up. So that is why we hadn't the program for a few weeks. And as I said last week, we had a clash with the Buxton rally, and so, well, not a rally, but a Buxton meeting hosted by the WPA, and our leader was invited there to speak, which he did. And so I thought it best not to have a clash with that program last week. And so this week I've decided to do an edition of Live from Region 2. We have lots to discuss in just about an hour and a half. And so I'm just trying to reach that magic number. I see persons from the Caribbean islands tuning in. Good night to you. Booker, good night. Audrey Brown, good night. Isabella Butters, good night. I'm wondering if Isabella is from Region 2. I know a lot of butters from Region 2, from Danielstown, where I am originally from. You know, my mom is from Danielstown. She is practically Indo-Guyanese. My father is from Henrietta, and he is practically Afro-Guyanese. And so from that union, here I am. And so I think I always say that I can speak to certain issues. I'm not afraid to tackle certain issues because people, you know, in the Guyanese context, people are quick to point fingers at you, especially when you tackle the issue of race and discrimination. But I keep saying to my audience, I keep saying to Guyanese that I'm not afraid to tackle those issues because I'm neither here nor there. I grew up in a mixed family. I have lots of Afro Guyanese family, and I have equally lots of Indo Guyanese family. I, as a little boy, I would have went to the mandir, to all the religious functions, Indo religious functions. We call it dead walk. We used to call it back in the days. I don't know what they call it now. Um, when you have a dead, you normally have a function. Um, I would have went to the Jandi and all these other functions. Um, you know, it brings me to this point. Just it was last week, myself and the leader would have attended that Pago celebration at Pago function. We were invited by the Indian High Commissioner. And, you know, of course, as we expected, lots of photos out, some persons being critical, you know, what we're doing there, why we're there. Anil is there, placing powder on the leader and myself. But listen, I say to people, look, Pago is important. Pago is important to all Guyanese. I understand the struggle. I understand the discrimination. Nobody can understand it better than us. Every day we are fighting. Every day the leader of the opposition is out there highlighting and criticizing and doing so much every single day. So nobody can actually scold him about that. He understands the issue very well. But Pago is bigger than Mr. Norton and the PPP. It's bigger than all of us. Pago is something sacred to the Guyanese people, not only Hindus, but it has become a Guyanese culture. And so our participation there is with respect to our appreciation for Pago and its significance and its meaning to the people of this country. And so if we didn't go to that Pago function, we would have been criticized by sections of the society. And if we do, we will still be criticized. And so I just wanted to put that out there. I see Ms. Butters is saying that my father's family is from there. Yes, Danielstown is my hometown, and I know a lot of Butters. I have a lot of Butters friends in Danielstown there. Yes, coming back to our attendance there, and you know, the leader wanted to move around the country. He actually wanted to go different places, but he had an appointment in Berbice. And so after that function, he went straight to Berbice. Now people are looking at it, you know, the leader and Anil who approached us. But listen, picture will say one thing. What actually happened there, you know, we know what transpired actually on the ground. A picture can be twisted and turned in different to mean different things. And so I would leave it as that. We were there because we respect it as a Guyanese, something important to the Guyanese people. And We are for all Guyanese, we are for all religions, we are for all races, and so we will continue to participate in whether it's Pagwa, whether it's emancipation, um, whatever it is, we will continue to participate because we are one people. That is how we should be, notwithstanding the discrimination and everything that is happening in Guyana. I want to get straight into the meat of our discussion. Um, Good night, Mr. Blair. Dominic, you're looking from New York. My good friend and Lindener. Glad to see you on the program tonight. Um, Rhonda Spencer, a number of other persons on. Miss Roma Sindo, special good night to you, my friend. Special good night to you, my friend. Operator, if we can pull up the first slide, because quickly time runs on this program. Now, we hadn't an opportunity to discuss a number of topics, and we were still early in the year, so I wanted to have some discussion on the 2023 budget in the context of Region 2 and in the broader context of Guyana. Now, this budget I'm not certain that everybody understands the magnitude of this budget and what's in the budget. What exactly is in the budget? What is there for the average Guyanese? The budget that was passed by the parliament is for $781.9 billion. And you can see it on the screen here. $781.9 billion. Just a few years ago, when the coalition was in government, I believe our last budget was about $340 billion. So this budget, this PPP budget here now is approaching, it's more than double, and very soon it will triple what the coalition had. And if you look back at the progress that the coalition would have made with the monies and resources it had in its disposal, you would agree. Any fair Guyanese would agree that the coalition would have done well, would have done extremely well. We would have been able to, for example, move the salary bar, the low for those public servants that were receiving the lowest pay. I believe it was about $39,000, somewhere thereabout. We moved that to about over $70,000. We were able to do that with less resources, less than half of the money that is available to this current government. If you look across the country, the infrastructural development that we were able to undertake, the roads, it was the first time in decades that Guyanese would have felt comfortable with the construction of roads, the quality of roads, and the quality of service. People naturally felt that they were getting value for their money. And so we have to look beyond the figure, beyond that figure. It is huge. It is huge. But we have to look beyond that figure and what exactly they're doing, what exactly this government is doing for you with these huge sums of money. Just in January, the government would have received from the oil resources almost $100 billion US dollars, almost $100 billion US dollars, and that is only in January. And that is in addition to the 1.3, the the 1.3 sorry, it would have been 100 billion Guyana dollars. That is in addition to the 1.3 billion dollars they have in the account, the current natural resource fund. 1.3 billion dollars, and that is only from oil. That is only what they would have gained from oil. Over the years, we would have had gold as one of the main contributors, and other products being produced that would have driven this economy. But now oil, with the coming of oil, they have an entire new industry that is bigger than all of the other industries combined together. So we need to understand the magnitude of funds coming in and the magnitude of this budget. So I have a little note there, whether it's prosperity or if it's a colossal failure. That is the question that should be in our minds. And in explaining the budget to the people of Region 2, it's a Region 2 program, Region 2 based program. So I want to explain to Region 2 what is it that is there for them. And the answer to that is that there isn't much in the budget for Region 2. In fact, we're not very impressed with this budget that is almost triple the coalition budget in terms of what it has for the people of Guyana. Now, a budget like this, almost, well, more than $750 billion, you would expect nationally, you'd expect, for example, free education at the university level. The coalition would have already calculated how much it will cost the taxpayers to free up the University of Guyana. And we understand the benefits which would be derived from that. We understand the savings that would be derived for that. We understand what it means for young people in not having to pay those tuition fees. And we didn't leave it as that. The leader of the opposition would have suggested that other than UG being free, we provide student stipends to help them with their little traveling, to help them with the printing of their handouts, to help them to gather whatever resources they have to get for their assignments and projects. That is how we're thinking as a government in waiting. And that is the advice which we would have given time and time again to this government. But they're not focused on that. I tell you this, they're focused, the only thing they're focused on is filling their pockets and the pockets of their friends, family, and favorites. And that is what we're getting in this country today from this PPP government. Now, as it relates to Region 2 and the budget, I would have expected, as a resident for Region 2, and we can start with the university, I would have expected by now they would have announced that, look, we're going to build a campus. You need to do a study of the region, understand which are the areas. I'm not saying that you need a full-fledged University of Guyana campus, but you need to have some programs, the popular programs being offered here. You have Region 2 is run by rice and it's farming, and you know the kind of activities in Region 2. So you carry out a study, you carry out a survey, and you determine what courses you can offer. Engineering might be one of them. Programs along the agriculture line, research and development. Those are the programs that you tend to offer in a region like this. But there is no focus on that. And this region, the funny thing is that this region has traditionally supported the PPP. So I'm hoping that people, the people of Region 2, their eyes are open. You'd expect to have a modern market in Regina. For year after year, you have these problems with the market and the clustering and the traffic and breaking down of stalls and all this. I had to fight them 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 year. And that's public information. It's out there somewhere in my page and other pages. It's there. I moved a motion in Parliament which could not see the light of day. They killed it from the beginning. It's still there somewhere in the records of Parliament. But you would think that most of these vendors are, or they traditionally support the PPP, you would think naturally that they would try to solve this problem. But you know what? The area that where people are recommending this market to be built, and which the coalition would have initiated some plans for. Rumors have it that the government wants to sell it or give it by whatever means to one of their cronies. And so they're not interested in the development of the ordinary people. They're interested in putting monies into the pockets of their friends and their cronies. That is how they operate. You would have expected roads into the Pomeroon River. They have the monies to do it. The coalition would have initiated some surveys, some plans for that. And when we take office, if they can do it, we will do it. That is my commitment to the people of Region 2. You can hold me by this. By 2021, we said by 2021, 2022, we would have done the Charity waterfront. The same way we would have done the Supernam waterfront. We know if we look back, and I'm sorry I don't have some clips here. Good night, Mr. Troy Guilford. Good night. Rowena, my friend. Good night. Good night. Great to see you. Great to see you. Now, these are the kind of developmental projects we want to see in region number 2. And so many other regions, I'm sure. But they're not focused on that. They don't have that vision. They don't even need to have the vision, because when the coalition left office, we left those plans there for them. And so they could, naturally, you expect that any government taking over from the other one will continue the developmental works. That is how the government system works. You look at the good programs and you continue them. If you deem certain programs that they are not beneficial or they're not in line with your plan, well, then you can put them aside. But of course, you need to consult with the people to understand, because at the end of the day, it is the people that we serve when we're in government. And so I have not seen anything like that. What they have is a few roads which they would have announced year after year, and I see them scurrying to get it done. In some areas, they're doing, for example, in Regina, I'm told 25 roads they're doing there, because we know why local government elections are coming. But yet, in places like Danielstown, where I come from, the main streets in Danielstown are in a deplorable state. A taxi driver met me I was there 3 days ago for a funeral. And he said any passenger that asked him to go through the street, he putting them off at the roadhead. It's not that he doesn't want to go in there, but the street is in such a bad condition. And we have been advocating for those areas to be treated equally, the same way that they're doing developmental works in other communities like Affiance And so where their strongholds are, we constantly ask for the same treatment to be given to areas where we have strong support. Areas like Danielstown and Dartmouth, Queenstown. But we're not seeing those kinds of actions from this government. And whenever you talk about discrimination, they tend to say, well, produce the evidence. The evidence is right there for all to see. I will tell you another thing as I'm on this topic of discrimination and the way how the PPP operates. For the last few weeks, a mother from in the Pomeroon would have been calling me, complaining that her son would have worked on the school boat that transports children to school, thanks to the coalition, would have worked from April last year to December without pay. All sorts of push around without pay. Decided to leave the work. He's still in March 2023. He cannot be paid. I had my counselors raise the matter just last Wednesday. I sat in that RDC to see what exactly is going on and to caucus and so with my counselors within the region here. And the counselors raised it. The RU pretended, in my opinion, that she didn't know about it. None of them knew about this problem. Although the mother has been calling time and time again, the person in charge of education, the REDO, is very much informed and knows about the matter. All of them know about the matter. Why is it that he has to be pushed around? The reason is obvious. The reason is very obvious. He is not part of your constituents. He's perceived not to be your supporter. These problems happen with everybody, Whether you're Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, whether you support PPP, you support PNC, whomever you support. We get these problems. But the way in which they are handled, that is the problem. That is the issue. If you're perceived to be APNU AFC supporters, you were treated differently. And it doesn't matter if you are Afro-Guyanese or Indigenous Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese. Miss Aziz, I'm looking to see if Miss Aziz is on this live. She normally is. Miss Aziz can tell you she's not Afro-Guyanese. She's not in Indigenous Guyanese. But she would have faced, and her family would have faced, the brunt of attacks under this government. So once you're perceived to be coalition supporter, you're treated, it's two different Guyanas. And that is the reality. That is the reality that we're faced with here today. Irfan Ali goes around this country and preaches about one Guyana, and it's a farce. It's a farce. It brings me to his response. That brings me to his response to the Tokomo Ogunsi issue. And the leader would have addressed it today. The leader would have addressed it today. And persons have been meeting me to discuss it. I don't want to say what they have been saying to me on this issue, on this program. Guyana is a very sensitive place, and I understand, understand the nature and the sensitive nature of these things. But Irfan Ali, rather, it appears to me that he doesn't recognize that he is the president of Guyana. You're preaching one Guyana. And if you believe that somebody said something that is offensive, you as president think that you need to go on the attack to exacerbate that situation. to blow it up, to inflame it, gaslight it. And that is what he did, because he went off, on the usual thing saying it's terrorism, domestic terrorism, and all sorts of things, and talk about the law and all these things. Now, first of all, if you start to talk about the law, it means that the impartiality that the police is supposed to exercise will not be exercised. You are the commander-in-chief. And if my commander-in-chief is making certain pronunciations, those can be interpreted, as directives. And so Irfan Ali should know better than that. He should know better than that. He's commander-in-chief, and you're preaching this one Guyana. And so you don't try to gaslight this thing for it to end up in an ethnic war. Who will that benefit? Who will that benefit? The PPP thinks that it will benefit them, obviously, because currently what is happening in terms of the cost of living and everything that is going on in Guyana, don't believe Indo-Guyanese, like a lot of Indo-Guyanese, like what is happening in this country at the moment. A lot of them are cussing the PPP. A lot of them are saying that they will not vote in the next election. A lot of them are very disappointed with this PPP government. And so the PPP knows that. And so they think that their best option is to create an ethnic conflict, and then they can benefit from it. They can appeal to Indo-Guyanese who would have shunned them, who are disappointed, appeal to it through race if we have a race war, and they come out as the victors. That is the game plan. That is the game plan. We have to be responsible leaders. The leader of the opposition said that he felt that the choice of words by Mr. Ogunsi were not the best, but we cannot ignore the facts that he laid out. We cannot ignore the situation in Guyana. And at some point, this country is going to explode. I hope I'm not taken out of context here, because they're quick to say, well, you're promoting some kind of war. If people say that we need to stand up and we need to stand up and fight, it doesn't mean that physically you're going to fight people. And that is how the PPP is trying to put it. I read something from them today saying that it's wrong for somebody to say that one side will fight another side. That is not what those speakers were saying. And they know fully well. That is not what the speakers were saying. But they're trying to gaslight this situation so that we can have an ethnic war. And that can give them an advantage in the next elections. We have to see it for what it is, folks. We have to see it from what it is, for what it is. I grew up in an Indo family, and I spent much of my life growing up within that family. So I'd say it over and over, I cannot be accused of racism. I cannot be accused of racism. So coming back to the point of this budget, it's a very it's a huge disappointment. We're not seeing things the threshold, the tax threshold should have gone up at least to $150,000. We know what the cost of living is doing to people right now. I'll tell you this one. I was looking at the Ministry of Thanks, operator. The PPP minimum wage in 2006 was 26,000, and we met it in at 39,570. That's the figure, and we moved it all the way up, to about $70,000 when we left government, or I believe it was $72,000 when we left government. But coming back to the Ministry of Agriculture, they have these, this government has a lot of money now, so they have these nice programs. They're doing a lot with the media. Don't be fooled by what they're saying. If you listen to them, you would believe that all is bright and beautiful in Guyana, and people not punishing in this country. I saw on the Ministry of Agriculture page, they were pushing this, talking about how they increase this brackish shrimp production, and so I made a comment. To say, agriculture is in a bad place right now. And lo and behold, whomever handles that page had the temerity to take me on. I hope it's not a public servant that they're putting in that position. The Ministry of Agriculture should not be concerned about the politics, but serving the people, doing what they have to do. But they've chosen to engage me. That they made a statement that it is APNU who killed agriculture in this country. I simply said to them, look, people, during our 5 years, people were better off. Inflation is killing people. Food, the basic items, if agriculture is doing so well, why people can't afford basic things like boro, okra, and squash, and those basic things. Those basic things. Agriculture is not doing very well. It's not doing very well. They're talking a lot about food security, but there needs to be action. These little things that they're trying to do wouldn't save us. You need to have a holistic plan. And the president loves to use that word, holistic. But there's nothing holistic about what he and his government is doing or has been doing. They got to change their trajectory. They got to change direction. Whatever they have been doing in the last 3 years is not working. They blame COVID. They blame the flood. I don't know what next they will blame. But it's certainly not working for the poor, the ordinary people, and even those that have a little bit more are worried. They're going about their daily lives on a tight budget. Even the people that have a little decent salary are on tight budgets these days. And so I am hopeful that the people of Guyana, the people of Region 2, will see it for what it is. See that the PPP does not have their best interests at heart, and they make the right decision when that time comes. Operator, if we can move to the next slide. Good night to Sudhari, Sukchan, Esther Blue, Gladwin Bruce, Brenda Brathwaite, Mr. Humphrey, Sandra Adams, Gwyneth Anderson. Good night to you all. $5 million in the NRF fund. I made reference to it earlier. That is what we received in January. It is not as if the PPP doesn't have money. People need to understand. They constantly try to compare what the coalition did. Even now, they're constantly trying to compare what the coalition did with what they are doing now. Although they have tons of resources at their disposal. and nobody to question how they will spend it, how they can spend it. They have a majority in parliament. There is nobody from the opposition or civil society on the NRF board. There is no oversight, so they can squander this money however they please. And that is what they have been doing. That is what they have been doing. Guyanese need to ask themselves, have your lives been drastically improved over the last 3 years? Did oil do anything for you? The answer is no. Here in Region 2, we would have had plans for the shore bases for the next shore base to come to Region 2, one to Region 2, one to Berbice. And these are not our strongholds. But in our plan, we consider the development of all of Guyana, for all Guyanese. Region 2 and East Berbice is not our stronghold. They're not our strongholds. But we don't practice discrimination. Guyanese, we see Guyanese as Guyanese, all Guyanese being equal. We moved a motion to have these shore bases to come to the coast so that the people on the coast can get the benefits of the oil and gas industry quickly. They said no, they threw out the motion. Jagneo comes to Region 2, talks about 1,000 jobs. What jobs? They're now building 2 call centers. So I don't know if the whole of Essequibo will work at these 2 call centers. People will learn about call center work. I did call center work, you know. I had a short stint at the call center. At Qualfon, I was in the second batch when Qualfon came together, and I did it as a part-time thing while I was doing my engineering studies. It is not easy. It is not something that is very easy. It is something that taxes you on your brain. It is not easy. If you're not cut out for it, don't do it. And so the coalition thought that we could have brought different types of jobs to different areas. We had plans for Linden. We had plans for different regions on the coast. But we're not seeing those plans being executed by this government. Operator, if we can move to the next slide, because time is running on us. Now, this is another thing I wanted to comment on. This is the infamous Men on a Mission organization. The first thing I would say about it is that it is not original. There is an identical organization in the UK. It wears the same blue. The objectives, the aim and objective of the organization seem to be the same, at least on the surface. So it's basically they copy and paste it. They cut and paste, wholesale it. The same way that Irfan, whatever he did with his certificates. You know, there's always an element of fraud when dealing with these people. But that is not the substantive issue here that I want to discuss. Men on a mission. Now, I noticed persons say, well, this is a good job. This is Sunday. Last Sunday, they cooked some food at the Regina fire station or somewhere. This is Aberdeen. They cooked some food for the women. I think that was in recognition of the Women's Day, International Women's Day. Nothing is wrong with that. It's great. Nothing is wrong with that. But I'll tell you what my problem is and what people don't know. This organization is not funded by donations. It is funded by taxpayers' dollars. It is not like the 5Bs that you had. Persons donated boats and bikes and buses and that kind of thing. This organization is funded by taxpayers' dollars. They got $500 million for 2023. The government refused to say who heads this organization, what is the organizational structure. They refuse to say to the parliament and the people of Guyana how exactly, what is their work program, how exactly they will determine, okay, to build a house here or to do whatever works there. How do you come about choosing which communities and who will be the beneficiaries? And that is my issue, because if you're allotted $500 million, then you have to account for it. You must account for it. That is $500 million. You don't give the teachers an increase, but you got $500 million to put into a slush fund so that these boys can enjoy themselves. They can cook and enjoy themselves. These are not people that, most of them willingly in this organization, In the middle there, you're seeing this is the Essequibo faction. You're seeing the vice chairman, Audit. You're seeing the that is a police officer, and some police officers you're seeing there. Others are RDC workers. The thing is a scam. It is a scam. It is not an organization, a civil society organization. It is not an organization which benefits from donations, so that you go out there, and even with donations, you have to account for the things that people give to you. You have to account. You must account. They lump $500,000 in the budget and they put it towards this organization. That's the end of this story. So I just wanted this to get out there for people to understand, because I noticed people saying, great job. It's all good. You cook some food for the mothers. It's all good. But I'm saying the people are punishing out there. There are things that this organization can do. They got to get their things in line. You're spending taxpayers' money to the tune of $500 million. And this type of behavior is not acceptable. It can't be acceptable by no standard. Let's move on, operator. Now, I'm trying to deal with some of the regional issues here quickly. This is a story I picked up. Mr. Ramdehin would have been the victim of a robbery in 2019. And you see, when you have a lawless government, a government that is corrupt, you get these type of things. The institution, it destroys the institutions below. When you have the head of the organization is corrupt as he is, everything that follows below will obviously be corrupt, will not function the way it's supposed to, and then the people are the one who will suffer. Now, Mr. Ramdehin would have been a victim of a robbery, as I understand it. And the police would have caught up with the alleged robbers, arrested them, and would have retrieved Mr. Ramdehin's gold chain. And while the robber is being processed, when Mr. Ramdehin now goes to the station to retrieve his gold chain, you know what happened? He got 3 Mac chain. You know them ones that are sell for $500 and so on the street corner in Georgetown. It is beyond ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous. This is from a police station. Now, this happened in 2019. And we had elections and whatever in 2020. Early 2020. Government change. Commander after commander change. You can roll the next slide, operator. You had 3 different commanders. 3 years later, this issue cannot be resolved. The new commander, and I'm not blaming him by any means, blaming him here, casting any blame on him. He obviously didn't know. When questioned recently, he's shocked about this. He's now knowing about this. The police officer fingered in this issue has long been transferred to Region 1 and maybe some other region since then. Commander after commander would have passed through the region, and the issue is still there. And this is from a police station. You know, under the coalition, I'm not saying that things didn't happen under the coalition, you know, but these type of things would have been dealt with. I am confident that under the coalition government, under Kemraj Ramjitan, these type of things, somebody had to answer. The chips had to fall where they may, wherever they fall. Wherever they fall, they had to fall. But when you have the commander-in-chief himself calling for corrupt cops to be promoted, you can understand what that does to the psyche of the hierarchy of the force. And so you will always end up with these kinds of tragedies. This might never be resolved. Believe what I'm saying to you. I will come back to this issue at some point. It will never be resolved. The same way, or in Boston's murder, 1 year and counting, just now will be at 2 years. It will not be resolved. If it's resolved, it will be in the most minuscule manner. Somebody will have to take the blame for it, and that's how it goes on. No proper investigation. Operator, let's move on. You know, and move to the next slide. And Mr. Ramdehin, before I forget, if you could pull the next slide, the other one, the next one. If Mr. Ramdehin also stated, and I have it there, the extract, he visited Freedom House. He visited the PPP's office on Robb Street. Obviously, he didn't. He's from Essequibo here. He didn't get justice at the Freedom House, the local Freedom House in Region 2. So he decided to go straight where the big boys are. Irfan and Jagdio and them. He reached out to he reached out to the president's office for assistance, but was pushed around again. These are his words: pushed around. He said he even raised it in a meeting which they had at Anne Regina, and they had policemen walking around, you know, to take the concerns, and that bore no fruit. This is not what I'm saying. This is what Mr. Ramdehin has said to the media. They don't have an interest in law and order. They don't have an interest in justice. And this is why the police force has to be the way it is under this administration. They're incapable of managing the police force. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, Region 2 again. This is a back street in Westbury, and this area has a lot of our supporters, APNU AFC supporters. Persons, residents here are playing with the NDC, playing with the RDC, playing with the government to do this street. And it's not only because they want the street to be done, but because there is another access to this area, a front access. And the street is so narrow that recently there was a fire and the entire home was lost because the fire truck could not get through to that house because of the narrowness of the street. And so they're playing month after month. For the last 3 years, they have been playing. the coalition would have done some work in the area, and I'm certain, being involved in it, I'm certain that that the coalition had all intention of doing this road here. Now the PPP is in office, they're refusing. You know what the NDC is saying? That they can't, they're giving them a push around to say that the NDIA, because this is at the seaside, the NDIA is responsible. And so they cannot get in. You know, they got these ways. Once it's not your supporters, these are the excuse. Any easy excuse that they could put forward, that is what they give you. So you're not entitled to development. You know, persons living, and you can't see it, but way into the street there, they cannot have, they have no access in terms of land filling. Trucks cannot get to those properties. And they're both Indo and Afro persons living here, you know. But the area is perceived to be coalition support, so that's the end of it. The issue is dead. The issue is dead. If you could pull the next slide, operator. These poor people living here, so we ain't got time with them. And it's not our supporters, we ain't got time with them. Throw them under the bus. Pull up the next slide, operator. This is from another angle coming in from the main road, and then it turns. Now this street, right there, operator, this street is, you can see the seawall again, but the NDIA didn't have to do anything here. The NDC and the RDC did what they had to do. This is the same street, but it goes over into, crosses the canal, and it goes over into the next community, into Success. And this is a strong PPP area. And so it could be done here, but it can't be done. It's the same road, just separated by a canal, but it can't be done in Westbury. They gotta wait. They gotta wait their turn. They mightn't get it in this 5 years. They might gotta wait another 5 years, or wait for the coalition to come back in power. Well, once we get power, we will do it. We will do it. But we don't only do work in our stronghold. We do work in every community, every single community. Let's move to the next slide, operator. Now, I wanted to deal with this, spend a few minutes dealing with this, the PNC building. This is what the building looked like after they would have trashed it. The PPP would have sent in Venezuelans about 1:30 in the morning, like thieves in the night, to destroy our building. They've made several attempts before. I was in the region just a week or two prior to this happening, where we would have done some reorganizing, and to better able to do our work, our political work within the region. And so I suspect that, knowing this, they thought that they had to make a move. So we had in the building countless barrels with stuff for the indigenous community, for free distribution to indigenous communities. We had party documents, sensitive documents, lots of stuff there. They sent in these Venezuelans. You know, they always got to get people that they got something over to do their bidding. PPP always uses criminal elements or people that would have been involved in some kind of violation of the law to use to do their bidding. So they use the REO there who would have allegedly shot that young girl, and we can remember that we can recall that issue. That REO who would have shot that young indigenous woman. They would have been at some bar and whatever. I don't know if he was under the influence, whatever it is, but he shot that young lady and nothing ever happened. And so for the protection that he is given, he now has to do their bidding. And nothing happened to him. Nothing happened to him. I can't recall him spending a night in the lockup. I can't recall his firearm being taken away or the license being even suspended. This is how the PPP operates. And so they use him now to commit acts of terrorism. They talk about terrorism. This is local terrorism. This is terrorism. To destroy our building. They took off the roof, took out the windows, took out doors. The PNC would have occupied this building for close to 50 years, since 1975. If you have an issue, a property issue, you need to come with your documents, carry it to court, and do the right thing. You can't tell us about producing documents and this type of thing. The onus is on you. If you are saying that you are the rightful owner, then go to the court, secure a court order. That is what the law recommends. That is how you operate. Now they know that they erred and they didn't look good. In the end, they didn't look good because Jagdeo came out and he was showing couple, waving some papers. We sent them this notice, but we sent them a notice too. And the notice was quite clear. We said it is our building. We've always been in possession, undisturbed, for almost 50 years. Almost 50 years. PPP was in power for 23 years. Never touched it. Never ever touched it. And so we will not be bullied in this matter. We've occupied our building, reoccupied our building. We will not be bullied in this matter. The building is ours, and if the PPP claims that it's theirs, then they need to go to the court. When you follow, and Hamilton Green gave us some good examples, when you follow the Rupununi uprising and what would have occurred there and the issues surrounding it, this said property would have been a base for, I believe, the Melvilles and those there involved in the uprising. And you had issues with land. These lands could have very well been indigenous land or owned by an indigenous person or persons. And so you can't come with some register to say you own it. You gotta come with transport. That is what you gotta come with. And so we reject this move and we will challenge them. We will challenge them. We're not taking bully in this matter. Period. This is like declaring war on the party. Operator, pull up the next slide. You know, there's an unspoken rule in politics, and it's not peculiar to Guyana. It is an unspoken rule, a universal rule. You don't attack political party offices. This is the PPP office in Regina, right here in Region 2. And unlike the PNC, they would not have had undisturbed occupation of the plot for any particular time. This plot here was the nursery school, as far as I know it, because I spent maybe a few weeks or months at the Regina nursery before I spent 3 weeks, 3 months at that nursery school. My mother was a teacher at that time at that nursery school. So I know, I'm old enough to know a few things about this issue. Later on, you had a primary, an annex there. Primary 3 or 4 was in that building. Then you had the National Library, a branch of the National Library, using the space after the new school was built. Then they removed them, and you had the Amerindian hostel being constructed there. I think maybe the Amerindians used it for some time, and then they removed the building altogether, and they built their building there. Now I don't know what paperwork they would have done, but I'm saying that it's improper. It cannot be proper. It wasn't a free plot of land and you go and you squat or you use it. However, you use the building and over time you assume ownership. Nothing like that. So they cannot come to tell the PNC about squatting in building, and if you want land, we can give you land. You're gonna apply. Look. We occupied the building, and you know the nerve of these people. They would have arrested two of our comrades there. You know the whole thing what they're trying to do. We're making inroads in Region 9. There are tons of Amerindian people who support us in Region 9, and they know that we are making inroads. They're trying to bribe them, but this time is not long time. This time is not long time. The people are well aware of the facts. They know that if the coalition government should come back to power, they will see a better life, given all the resources that this government has access to. So what they're trying to do now is to put fear into their minds and their hearts. We'll destroy the PNC. And if you associate yourself with the PNC in Region 9, we destroy you too. That is the message that they are sending. You know, the tables will turn, you know. The tables will turn. The tables will turn very soon. These things could only go on for so long. But as I said, we will challenge them. We're prepared to challenge them on this issue. We're not going to be bullied on this issue. Operator, let's move to the next slide. The time is running so fast. Good night, Miss Gwyneth Anderson, Sullivan, a number of persons here. Just move past that slide. I think I spoke on it. That's the slide from the Ministry of Agriculture. Move past that slide, please. Pull up the next slide. Now, this is a core issue that I want to discuss. The slide before. There are a few slides here that I want to discuss. All right, we can take this one if you're there. If you stabilize here, operator, we can take this one. Look, we had to press this government for salary increases. From the beginning of last year, the leader of the opposition came out and we laid out what we wanted for the people based on what they're saying to us as representatives of the people. They waited till in December of last year and they came out with a meager salary increase. And when you had a big outcry from the public servants, they came back and they did something more. And in doing something more, they said, well, you know, when the teachers asked what happened to them, some categories of health workers got and some didn't. And those were saying what happened to them too. And so they came out in December and they promised that teachers were also going to receive some salary adjustments for whatever that means. I don't know if it's 5%, 2%, 8%. We don't know what it means. But until now, our teachers are still not benefiting from those salary adjustments. Until now, the disrespect to the people that mold this nation, the total disrespect. You know, I was speaking to a teacher just a few days ago, and he was explaining to me the stress that teachers go through right now and the problems with the syllabus. I'm hearing a lot from these teachers on the syllabus, that it is so packed and they don't even have time to carry the children out. You know, if you're doing science, you carry them outside so that they can you know, see these the practical, have the practical experience in nature on the outside. They're complaining bitterly about the syllabus. They're complaining bitterly about the limited resources they're given to make their teaching aids, etc. They have to use monies from their own pockets to do some of these things. You know, the teachers that really care use monies from their own pockets to do these things. And at the end of it, they cannot benefit from a decent salary. You have the monies, you have the resources available. You can give 500 million to the men on a mission to squander it however they want to. But you cannot give our teachers a proper salary. That is not acceptable. It is not acceptable by no means. The coalition will continue to work with the unions and other stakeholders to fight for better wages and salaries for teachers and better working conditions altogether. That is a promise I'm making to you, teachers. I see a lot of them on this live tonight. Operator, if you can quickly, we just have 12 minutes, so if you can go back one or two slides, good, right there, you know, no, the one just now. Jagdio, with the one with Jagdio. Jagdio, you passed it just, next one. Have Jagdio pictures there. It was just after this one, I guess. No, it's after that it's after you just had it. Jagdio, as opposition leader, told them to go out and ask for 50%. This is Jagdio. You have to go down. Jagdio as opposition leader. And when he gets power, everybody knows he's the man in charge. And when he gets power, he speaks from another side of his mouth. The same way he's dealing with the oil renegotiation of the oil deals. Spoke from one side of his mouth when he was opposition leader. And when he becomes the de facto president, he says something else. You can't trust these people. You can't trust these people, period. If you go down, operator, you need to go down. Just after the slide with Coretta, I think it's the next. Yes. Request a 50% increase, Jagdio tells GPSU. That's the union responsible. That's what he is saying as opposition leader in 2016. And when he gets power in 2020, the story changes. Go to the next slide just after that. Promise 50%. We have posters all over. They promise 50% increase. Then Sonia comes out and says, you know what? The PPP never promised 50% salary increase. Shameless. Shameless. These ministers of government. Disrespectful to our teachers. Disrespectful to the people who keeps the government machinery turning. Operator, if we can go back past this, because we had missed, I want to deal with the rice farmers quickly because it's an important issue to Region 2 in the country. Now, the rice farmers in Region 2, prior to 2015, under the PPP, would have, go up 2 slides or so, you would have had, yes, right here, massive protests. In 2015, before we took off government, the rice farmers would have taken to the streets, burned tires, all because they were not being heard by the government. The government was not looking out for their interests, was not doing the things that they ought to do at that time for our rice farmers. Rice farmers were complaining that $3,000 a bag could not work. It could not work at that time. And this is 2015. This is 2015. Operator, if you can play that slide from 2015 to give people a sense of what the rice farmers were saying. Just play maybe a minute or two. And the situation now with the PPP, we're waiting on the operator, but the situation now with the rice farmers is pretty much the same. Well, in fact, it is worse. It is worse because the cost of production has drastically increased. The cost of production has drastically increased. And also the cost of living. The cost of living has increased threefolds at minimum. Threefolds at minimum. And so there is no way that the rice industry can survive. Farmers can survive on $3,000. Let's listen to this. Is a clip from 20.
Let me talk to a few of the rice farmers who are here right here now, at this moment here now. Here right out here. Could you tell us some of your problem you're facing?
So talk to the senior boys I'm ready for.
Let me know what some of the senior boys got to say.
Yes, sir. I think the price for paddy, as to compare with last crop, is not enough. We were getting seaweed last crop at $4,000 a bag, and we getting it at $3,100 a bag. And if you look at the cost of production, and the input, plowing, fertilizer, reaping, transportation, and even if the government subsidize and fertilizer, it cannot help the cause.
How are the farmers affected here in the Essequibo Coast?
Well, rice on the Essequibo Coast is over 75% of the people depend on rice on the Essequibo Coast as a livelihood, as employment for their family. And getting $3,000 bag for paddy is too low. You can't pay. The cost of production is far more than that.
Yeah.
A lot of people depend on rice farmer for income. Who have rice land, yet laborer, I work with the farmer then for share rice, spray rice and things, and get employment and get money for maintaining their family. Yeah. But when farmer get $3,000 bag, it means that the rice gone down to and drain there. You can't scoop no money, you're out of your salary, you're out of money for mind your family. You can't plant back rice. So that is really why we are appealing from the government to see what you can do to assist rice farmer so they can.
So what some of the how do some of the farmers respond to the president of this country?
Well, the president, the farmer president, the farmer's rice farmer.
I know the time.
To give a low income loan, a soft loan to farmer that in this crisis, in them crises, they can take loan to offset them expense and for go back in the crop at a 2% interest, and they fail from that arrangement until now. Until now, they fail from that arrangement.
Okay, so let me get some of your quick comment.
Okay, yes.
Operator, we can pull the clip there now. Now, there's lots of information coming out there. The farmer is saying 75% of the coast depend on rice, maybe more. He also spoke about the promises the PPP made. Now, these are rice farmers in 2015 before 2014, 2015 before we came to government. We came to government and we got new markets, although you had the Venezuela deal crashing at that time. Coalition inherited a crisis, but we managed. There were no such complaints during those 5 years. What the PPP did was to go to farmers to tell them that Moses Nagamutu say that you're going to get $9,000 and you're going to get $9,000. Ridiculous. Now in 2023, the farmers are in the same situation again, and even worse. Operator, if you can play the clip, and let me tell you what's happening here. Mustafa came down. He think that he could come and bluff these farmers and sweet talk them and tell them about APNU didn't do this and we doing dams and whatever and so on. The people didn't want to hear that. They were having none of it. They said, listen, this $3,600 a bag what we getting now can't work. The inputs are tremendous. The cost of living ridiculous, and it just can't work. And we ain't listening to that nonsense. Don't come and tell me about APNU. Come and tell me what you gonna do to help us. And that is essentially what they said. And they walked out of that meeting. Walked out. He said that they couldn't do anything. Rice is the millers and whatever, and they couldn't do much. And the farmers just decided that they were not having any of it. Let's just listen to the report quickly so that we can wrap up.
Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa on Tuesday traveled to the Essequibo Coast to meet with farmers to discuss some of the issues affecting the sector. With harvesting due in a few days, the farmers demanded better prices for their paddy.
Right now, I bet wrong it. You hear? Because we don't get price, we can't go none way. And all them farmers, this are cry here. Right? The cost of production too high. Right? And even to $4,000 back can't walk.
But presently now, right, the cost of rice farmer $115,000 acre for produce an acre rice. And last crop farmer only run about $65,000 per acre. Who want to tell you that they get 40 bag acre, let the company media and tell you?
Another farmer boldly stated that oil money is not reaching the region, adding that if the cost of production is not down, they will be out of business.
Everybody gonna rice farmer. Rice farmer got them at bottom, I kick them up.
In a press release by the Ministry of Agriculture, Minister Mustafa said that the government would be putting systems in place to ensure those farmers are assisted to return to the land.
Look, Mustafa was embarrassed. They were embarrassed, and a lot of these farmers are traditionally PPP supporters. But I think they're getting the drift of what is happening. We are seeing the tide turning again. We are seeing the PPP mismanaging the industry again. And though they have monies and resources available, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. We said to them, look, you got to it's a cardinal sin to be producing oil and to pay in these high rates for diesel and for fuel. You got to do something about it. It goes to the core of the rice farmers. They got to use fuel to plow, to harvest, to do so many things. You got to tackle the fertilizer. You got to tackle so many different things so that these farmers can get relief. But they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Now these farmers walked out of the meeting, and suddenly they said, well, the millers agreed that they're going to pay you $4,000. But when you listen to these millers, they're saying to you in no uncertain terms now that even $4,000 cannot work for them. The cost of rice on the market right now has gone up. So why the farmers can't be paid a little more? Look, a year ago, a small bag of rice was about $1,200. Now it's about $2,100. And so the farmers know this. They have to go and buy rice way more expensive at 60-70% more, but they're not seeing that increase in the price being paid for their paddies. And so it is my, we gotta discuss this topic some more. We're out of time now because we will clash with another program. And operator, I just want you to bring up the very last slide in this thing. There was a tragic incident in Region 2. I just wanted to say 2 words on it. But the farmers situation, we are very much concerned about the farmers. I'm arranging to meet with them shortly, and we will be addressing this whole situation with the farmers. But if you can just pull up the last slide so that I can close it off here. This is a young man, a father of 4, somebody that I know right from neighboring community, within even I would say even within my family to some extent, who would have died tragically just recently. So I want to, on behalf of myself, my family, on behalf of the People's National Congress Reform, I want to express our sincere condolences to the family of Amos Lee from Amos Lai. Gotta get that pronunciation right. Amos Lai. You know, he was a humble youth. I know him personally for a number of years, and you know, he was very respectful. He had a lot of friends. You know, I can't say anything that I saw anything negative in him, but only positive. And so at this time, I really want to express sincere condolences to the family and friends, and I trust that, you know, Almighty God will give you the strength to get through this period of severe grief. Folks, that is our program for tonight. You know, the time is up so quickly, but I don't want you to miss In the Ring, which is scheduled to come in right now. And so I want to thank you for joining me tonight on this program. And I do hope that you're back with us again next week, same time, same place, when we can continue this discussion on governance and what is happening in our country. Good night and God bless.